Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Hope you all fine. This lecture is for grade 7, subject science, chapter number 2, and this is my fourth lecture. Here is Mrs. Saira Jamal. Students, we are going to start chapter number 2. This chapter is transport in human and plants. What is transportation? The supply of food, water, oxygen, etc., and removal of waste from our body is called transportation. This is the definition of transportation. Transportation takes place in plants, transportation takes place in animals, transportation takes place in human body. We will discuss these transportations one by one. First of all, we will discuss the transportation in humans, and the system which is responsible for the transportation in human is the circulatory system. What is circulatory system? The system that moves blood throughout the body. This system is called circulatory system. What is circulatory system? The system that moves blood. In the previous chapter, in chapter number 1, dear students, we discussed about the digestive system, then respiratory system. This is the third important system in our body, which is called circulatory system. And I told you the system that moves blood throughout the body, because we discussed it in the respiratory system that blood is composed of food. The food is absorbed in blood, and then the oxygen is absorbed in blood, and then this blood carries it to the different parts of the body, and then in cells what happened, the final conversion of food into carbon dioxide, water vapor, and energy is released, and then that energy we utilize for our different body function. So the circulatory system is composed of three important parts or three important organs. They are heart, blood, and blood vessels. Three types of blood vessels are present in our body: arteries, capillaries, and veins. Human body circulatory system. Our circulatory system comprise, I told you, heart, blood vessels, and blood. Our heart is a pumping organ. It pumps the blood in blood vessels. It pumps the blood and then it goes to vessels. Those vessels, I told you, they are capillaries, veins, and arteries. The first part of the circulatory system, which is the major part, which is the main important part of the circulatory system, that is heart. Our heart is a muscular organ about the size of our fist. When we close our hand, then it is called fist. So the size of our heart is same like our fist. So it means the size of the heart vary from person to person. The kids, they have different heart size because their fists are small. The grown up have different fist size, so their heart size is different. The heart is found in our chest. It pumps oxygen, poor blood. Blood is of two types: oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood means that blood which have more oxygen and less carbon dioxide. Deoxygenated blood means that blood which has less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. So deoxygenated blood is also called poor blood because this blood is not required by our body. Our body need oxygenated blood because I told you that for the final digestion of food, the blood in blood cell, the food needs oxygen. So oxygenated blood means the blood which is rich in oxygen, and deoxygenated blood means that blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. So our body need which blood? Oxygenated blood. Clear? How many chambers are there in a heart? There are four chambers in our heart, two upper chambers and two lower chambers. The two upper chambers are called arteria, and the two lower chambers are called ventricle. One atrium, one atrium, we will say it atrium because singular is atrium, and the two are called atria. This is the image of a real heart. Real heart image is like the heart is looks like in this form. Then, as I told you that the size of a heart is same like the size of our fist. You can see this is the fist. When you close your hand, it becomes fist. So you can see the size of heart and the size of fist. They are same. The heart is located in our chest. Again, you can see it from this image. Heart is present in the chest. Chambers of heart. You can see there are four chambers of heart. Left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle, and right ventricle. The two upper chambers are called atria. Separately, they are called atrium, left atrium, right atrium. The two lower chambers are called ventricle, but they are two, so left ventricle and a right ventricle. So these are the four chambers of heart. And in this image, you can see that the size of chamber, the ventricles, they are greater than the atriums. Atriums are smaller in size, but ventricles are larger in size. The ventricles of our heart are larger than the atria. Both atria contract at the same time, and so the ventricle. It means that the atria they contract at same time. Also, the two ventricles contract at the same time. This does not happen that one atrium means the left atrium it contract first and then the right atrium contract. No, both the arteries contract at same time and both the ventricles contract at same time. So there are two pumps. One pump is for the contraction of arteries and second is for the contraction of ventricles. The blood passes from the atria into the ventricle. There is a valve between each atrium and ventricle on the both sides of the heart. Dear students, there are total four valves in our heart, and those four valves have very important function. What are valves? Valves are the parts of the heart which keep the blood flowing in one direction. They allow the blood to flow only from atria into the ventricles and they prevent the reverse flow of blood from ventricle back into the artery. Deoxygenated blood. I told you deoxygenated blood means the blood which has less percentage or less concentration of oxygen. This blood from the body enters which atrium of the heart? Right atrium of the heart. And oxygenated blood means the clean blood. It enter in which atrium of the heart? It enter into the left atrium of our heart. It means oxygenated blood enters into the oxygenated blood enters into the left atrium and deoxygenated blood enter into the left into the right atrium. The right ventricle pushes the blood to the lungs and the left ventricle pushes the blood to the body. The detail will be in the next slide. First of all, I told you there are four types of valves present in our heart. Those four types of valves are tricuspid valve, which is present between the right atrium and right ventricle. Second type is mitral valve. It is also called bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve is present between the left atrium and left ventricle. Third type of valve, which is called pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve is present in this pulmonary artery. This is pulmonary artery. In pulmonary artery, the valve which is called pulmonary valve is present. One more type of valve is called aortic valve. Aortic valve is present in aorta, which is the largest artery of the body. So in this aortic, in aorta, the valve is present, and this valve is called aortic valve. So four types of valves are present in our body: tricuspid valve, mitral valve, pulmonary valve, and aortic valve. The valve we can see more clearly in this image. You can see this image which I told you, the tricuspid valve. Why is it called tricuspid valve? Because it has three rectangular segments. You can see one, two, three rectangular segments. And the bicuspid valve, which is also called mitral valve, it has two segments. You can see rectangular segment one and two rectangular segments. In this image, we are going to explain what happened to the blood when it enters into the heart. You can follow the arrows, dear students. The blue arrow from the upper side and the blue arrow from this lower side. It means that blue color means the deoxygenated blood. The deoxygenated blood, which has less percentage of or less concentration of oxygen in it. This is called poor blood. Poor blood enter into the heart. You can see from the upper side and from the lower side. This poor blood enter into the heart, and in which chamber it enter into the right atrium. You can see the poor blood or deoxygenated blood. It enters into the heart, in which atrium or in which chamber? In right atrium. Then this the when the when the atrium contracts, what happened? The blood from the atrium, it enters into the ventricle. These are the valves which allow the flow of blood from the atrium into the ventricle. Now you can see the arrow. The arrow is moving from the right ventricle into this pulmonary artery. You can see the blood then from ventricle, it moves into the pulmonary artery. This is called left pulmonary artery. Left pulmonary artery. So when the ventricle contracts, the blood enter from the left ventricle into the pulmonary artery, and this pulmonary artery takes the blood to lungs, because the deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated blood in lungs. Or lungs is the organ which purify the blood or which clean the blood or which convert the deoxygenated blood into oxygenated blood. Got it? I'm repeating again. The deoxygenated blood or poor blood, it comes from all parts of the body and enters into the right atrium. From right atrium, when it contracts, the blood flows into the left ventricle, right ventricle, and when the ventricle contracts, the blood then enter into the pulmonary artery, and then pulmonary artery carry it to the lungs. Clear? Coming toward the second atrium, the clean blood or oxygenated blood, it enters from lungs. It comes from lungs, and which veins carry this blood from lungs? This left pulmonary veins. The pulmonary veins, arteries, I told you, the arteries, this pulmonary artery, it carries the deoxygenated blood from the heart to lungs, and the veins which carry back the oxygenated blood or the clean blood to the heart is called pulmonary vein. This pulmonary vein will bring blood, clean blood, oxygenated blood from lungs, and it will enter into the left atrium. Then from when the atrium contracts, the clean blood or oxygenated blood will enter into the left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle, the blood will enter into the biggest artery of the body, which is called aorta, and then aorta will supply this blood to all parts of the body. The ventricle of our heart are larger than the atria. Both atria contract at the same time, and so the blood passes from the atria into the ventricles. There is a wall between each atrium and ventricle or on both sides of the heart. These walls keep the blood flowing in one direction. Deoxygenated blood from the body enter the right atrium, and oxygenated blood from the lungs enter the left atrium of our heart. The right ventricle pushes the blood to the lungs, and the left ventricle pushes the blood to all parts of the body. How does our heart work? How our heart work? Definitely, I told you in detail that how our heart work. There are four chambers in our heart. Two upper chambers are called atria, and the two lower chambers are called ventricles. And first of all, the atria they contract, and after contraction, what happens? The blood pump into the ventricle. How does our heart work? Human heart acts as a double pump. Double pump means in one pump the arterial contracts, and in the second pump the ventricle contracts. So blood from lungs and other body parts enter the arteria. The two arteria contract at the same time and push the blood to ventricle. This is first pump, or it is one pump. Now both ventricles contract at the same time and pump the blood to lungs and other body parts. This is called second pump. So it is the second pump. Our heart beats about 70 times in a minute. You can easily check it by you are counting your heartbeat per minute. So in normal person, what is the heartbeat? 70 times in a minute. We can feel our heart beat or pulse while placing our fingers below the base of the thumb on the underside of our wrist. I will show you a video in which you will understand this point, that how you can find out your pulse rate. I have a video, and dear student, I'm sure this video will help you in understanding the circulation.
Your heart is a pump. It's a muscular organ about the size of your fist and is located slightly left of center in your chest. Your heart is divided into the right and left side. The division protects oxygen-rich blood from mixing with oxygen-poor blood. Together, your heart and blood vessels comprise your cardiovascular system, which circulates blood and oxygen around your body. In fact, your heart pumps about 5 quarts of blood every minute, and it beats about 100,000 times in one day. That's about 35 million times in a year. Oxygen-poor blood, blue blood, returns to the heart after circulating through your body. The right side of the heart, composed of the right atrium and ventricle, collects and pumps the blood to the lungs through the pulmonary arteries. The lungs refresh the blood with a new supply of oxygen, making it turn red. Oxygen-rich blood, red blood, then enters the left side of the heart, composed of the left atrium and ventricle, and is pumped through the aorta to the body to supply tissues with oxygen. 4 valves within your heart keep your blood moving the right way. The tricuspid, mitral, pulmonary, and aortic valves work like gates on a fence. They open only one way and only when pushed on. Each valve opens and closes once per heartbeat, or about once every second. A beating heart contracts and relaxes. Contraction is called systole, and relaxing is called diastole. During systole, your ventricles contract, forcing blood into the vessels going to your lungs and body, much like ketchup being forced out of a squeeze bottle. The right ventricle contracts a little bit before the left ventricle.
So, student, I'm sure you understand or you understood from this video about how the human circulatory system works. Coming toward the next topic, this topic is about the blood vessels. How many types of vessels are present in our body? There are 3 types of vessels: arteries, capillaries, and veins. In this image, you can easily see all the red lines are for the arteries, the blue lines are for the veins, and these small branches are called the capillaries. So three types of blood vessels are present in our body. The red color show that the arteries, they carry oxygenated blood or clean blood, and the blue color of the veins show that they carry the deoxygenated blood. And half blue and half red color show that the capillaries can carry oxygenated as well as the deoxygenated blood. Actually, the main function of capillary is that they absorb the oxygen and they release the carbon dioxide. Means like in capillaries, I told you the blood, the deoxygenated blood which has carbon dioxide, it release that carbon dioxide and absorb oxygen, and then these capillaries combine together and they form big arteries and big veins. The blood travels through the body through vessels. Three types of vessels are present in our body. The first type is arteries. Arteries are the blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. I told you that the biggest artery, which is called aorta, the clean blood or oxygenated blood, it goes to aorta, and then aorta supply it to all parts of the body. It means the main function of the arteries are that they carry oxygenated blood, and they supply the oxygenated blood to all parts of the body. Arteries have thick and flexible walls. I showed you in this video. You can see arteries have thick and flexible wall. You can see the wall of the arteries. So most of the arteries carry oxygenated blood. I told you that the main function of arteries are that they always carry oxygenated blood. But I told you the exception. Only pulmonary arteries, they carry deoxygenated blood to the lungs. I showed you in my previous video, in previous image, that the pulmonary arteries are the arteries. They carry deoxygenated blood to the lung where it gets oxygenated. Arteries divide many times to small tubes or smaller tubes called capillaries. Arteries, you can see here, this is the artery and it divides into many small branches, and those small branches are called capillaries. Then the second type of vessels are capillaries. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels in the body. They are so small that red blood cells flow through them one cell at a time. They are very narrow and very small, so only one cell can pass at a time. Food and oxygen from the blood of capillaries diffuses into the cell. This we discussed before, that what happened in capillaries, and I told you before, the oxygen is absorbed in the blood cell and carbon dioxide is released from the blood cell. And then then that carbon dioxide goes into the alveoli of the lungs, and then I told you that carbon dioxide is exhaled out. Waste material and carbon dioxide from the cells diffuses into the blood of capillaries. Capillaries again join to form the larger blood vessels called veins. You can see, first of all, the red capillaries, they goes and join the blue small capillaries, and then those blue small capillaries join to form veins. In other words, you can say that arteries and capillary and veins, they are joined by the capillaries. Third type of blood vessels are called veins. Veins are the blood vessels that bring blood back to the heart, and most of the veins bring deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Uh, all the veins, their function is that they carry deoxygenated blood, but except one vein, that is pulmonary vein, pulmonary artery in case of arteries, and pulmonary vein in case of vein, they are doing opposite work. Normally all the arteries, they carry oxygenated blood, but only pulmonary artery carry deoxygenated blood. In this case, all the veins, they carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein, which carry the oxygenated blood. And then that oxygenated blood, the pulmonary vein, it carries to the heart, and from where? From lungs. From lungs it carries to the heart, and then heart supply it to all parts of the body. In this image, you can see all the red color arteries. It is called arterial system, and the blue color veins, it is called venous system. About these systems separately, inshallah, you will learn in higher classes. I told you that the arteries, they divide into smaller tubes called capillaries, and then those capillaries again, smaller tubes again rejoin, and then they form a large tube called vein. In this case, again, you can see arteries and veins, they are joined by capillaries. Arteries, thick wall, tube, red color mean have oxygenated blood. They join into small tube which is called arteriole. Arteriole then divide into smaller tubes called capillary. Then capillaries join with the venule part, which is a small part or thin part of the vein, and then they form the big vein. We have an activity 2.1, exercise and your heart. Feel the pulse on your wrist while sitting on the chair. When you are in comfortable position, sit on the chair using, even you can use your watch to count the number of pulses produces in 15 seconds. And when you find out your pulse rate in 15 seconds, then multiply it with 4. It will give you the pulse rate in 1 minute. And this is when you are relaxed, then find out your pulse rate or count your pulses. Do jumping in place for 30 seconds and then stop jumping. And now again count the number of pulses after this jumping or after this exercise. After taking rest for 5 minutes, count your pulse again, and then again third time count your pulse. So you have to count the pulse rate 3 times. One initially at rest, then do jumping and count the number of pulses, then again rest, take rest for 5 minutes and count your pulse rate. Compare the heartbeat rates in the two situations. In resting condition, one situation, second condition is jumping, and find out the difference. So what do you think? Exercise will increase your heart rate or heartbeat rate, or it will decrease your heartbeat rate? Yeah, obviously it will increase the heartbeat rate, because in the previous lecture we discussed this that during exercise our body needs more oxygen. So definitely the heartbeat rapidly. Dear students, I have a video, and in this video this video will help you help you how to find out your pulse rate or your heartbeat.
When you're taking resting heart rate, you want to have this be the first test so that they're relaxed after they filled out the paperwork. So you do it on their right arm, and you find the radial artery, which is the radial side is the thumb side, and you press your 2 fingers, not your thumb because that's your own pulse. Press it hard enough so that you can find their pulse. And make sure once you have it, then you use your stopwatch and you go for 15 seconds, and you count how many beats in those 15 seconds, multiply that by 4, and that's the resting heart rate. On the radial side, find the radial artery, press in with your forefinger and middle finger until you can find the pulse.
Hope you understand how to find out the pulse rate. This girl, she found the pulse rate in resting condition, and you do jumping and then find out the pulse rate again. It will help you in comparing the pulse rate or heartbeat at resting condition as well as in after exercise. I'm sure students you understand this lecture. Thank you.